Welcome, folks, to the Points to Ponder podcast. This is your host, Mike. My point to ponder for today is, why do most managers suck as human beings? Now, this is arguably one of my favorite topics. I'm going to start this podcast by saying that when I grew up, there was certainly a right and wrong in the workplace, and there was certainly a discernible difference between what is success and or accomplishment and what is failure or no accomplishment. Nowadays, there is no discernible difference. It is basically what the leaders of an organization is willing to tell you. Okay, so for starters here, let's talk about the Dark Triad of personality traits. This is predominantly behind why most managers suck as human beings. All right, so you have narcissism, which is characterized by excessive self-importance. You have Machiavellianism, is characterized by manipulation and deceit. And you have psychopathy, which is characterized by a lack of empathy. Now, remember, we talked last week about empathy. Isn't that interesting that this is a reoccurring theme with bad things? So, to quote Darlene Lancer's 2018 article in Psychology Today, Those with the Dark Triad of personality types, quote, act aggressively out of self-interest and lack empathy and remorse. They're skilled at manipulation and exploit and deceive others, though their motivations and tactics vary. They violate social norms and moral values and lie, deceive, cheat, steal, and bully, end quote. Furthermore, according to a 2015 article called Why Bad Guys Win at Work by Tomas Chamorro Premuzic in the Harvard Business Review, quote, found that individuals with psychopathic and narcissistic characteristics gravitated towards the top of the organizational hierarchy and had higher levels of financial attainment. In line with those findings, according to some estimates, the base rate for clinical levels of psychopathy is 3 times higher among corporate boards than in the overall population. And I have just a few more points here before I break into some of my own personal experiences. And as always, I love to hear about everyone's personal experiences, especially when it comes to bad managers. But for my last outside quote here, I'm going to quote Liz Ryan in her 2017 article in Forbes, which is titled 10 Reasons Good Employees Get Fired. And I love Liz's articles because she speaks directly from many years of human resources experience. She just lays it all out there. It's very accurate stuff. So let's get started here with these 10 reasons. So first reason, you can get fired if your excellent results on the job cause embarrassment to higher level managers. Yeah, I believe we've all seen that. The second reason, you can get fired for asking questions no one wants to answer. Absolutely. I still remember at a past employer, I brought up the fact that we had a serious culture issue, and nobody wanted me to bring that up or to ask that question why. All right, for Liz's third reason, you can get fired for setting normal boundaries. And she uses the example, hey, I will finish that project on Monday rather than take it home over the weekend. Which, folks, if you do any kind of research into successful people create boundaries. They don't allow work to bleed over into their personal life. They deliberately set boundaries so they can have a recharge period. All right, so on to point number 4. You can get fired for naming the elephant in the room, and I kind of mentioned that here with that previous example. For number 5, you can get fired for having a better idea than your boss's idea. That's just sad, in my opinion. For number 6, you can get fired for getting too much positive attention from top leaders in your organization. For the 7th reason, you can get fired for doing such a good job that other departments get angry. I have seen that. For number 8, you can get fired for having too much visibility outside your company, such as being asked to speak at events or getting awards or having an article published. For number 9, you can get fired for moving too fast and having too many ideas for your own manager's taste. That's sad. Lastly, for Liz's 10th reason, you can get fired for accomplishing so much at work that your boss wonders, will this employee come after my job next? Of all these 10 reasons, folks, I'm sure every one of you that's listening to this right now can pick out several of these that you've seen. I've seen most of these. And I have to say the last one, number 10, if not number 9, I have seen 9 and 10 on this list the most. I see that most of the managers, these bad managers with the dark triad of personality traits, the ones that I have seen that they're more susceptible to number 10, which is they're afraid, based on their own bullying that they've done over years, but they're afraid that somebody else is going to bully them this time around. So just to move on here with some of my own personal experiences, but what we're talking about is why do most managers suck as human beings? A few of my own stories here. I remember many years ago helping another manager with his workload while he sat and chatted with staff. And it was just humorous because here I was asked to come and help this person. And instead, what does this person do? He's not even helping me help him. He's just sitting there BSing with his own staff. So once I had finished, he took it upon himself to reward me with a can of soda, as if this had worked countless times before. And what's tragic about this is it probably did work many times before. At that same company, we had a district manager who kept forgetting to give raises to employees who had completed a grace period at the company. He would show up to the branch and chat and joke with the staff. A lot of these staff members were ones that he had advertently or inadvertently forgot to give them a raise, and he would sit there and chat with them as if this tactic had worked countless times before. At another company, I frequently had one of the owners follow me around. He was always obsessed with listening to my conversations, and I caught him one day out by the company dumpster. He stood there gazing at the ground, like someone had hit him over the head. He certainly exhibited the Dark Triad of personality types, but he financially was struggling. And I always just smirk to myself, and I think about this. The guy was quoted. He told me one time that, and he was proud of it, that he had snapped on every single employee at his company. And I look at him when he was just standing there staring at the ground by the dumpster. In that moment, I thought to myself, he just needed more polish with his dark powers. So that way he was more, so he could be financially successful and feel good about himself. At another company, I had an experienced supervisor who, after he tried to bait me with various comments, he would study my facial expressions as if we were in a poker game. And let me tell you, folks, it is awkward to actually catch someone doing that at a place of business, and then for them to see that you had caught them. just to see the recognition on their faces. And I'll get into another example of that here. At another company, I had a supervisor who, instead of supporting me on tough decisions, would take me out to eat for lunch, trying to weasel his way out of supporting me, as if that had worked countless times before with other staff members who didn't know better. At that same company, we had a group of senior managers who had worked previously together at another organization. And it was almost like they had this twisted game that they would try to play with us middle-level staff. They would deliberately try to intimidate us by quietly standing in our comfort zone or our private space. And I swear there were times where they were almost literally standing on my tiptoes, inches away from my face. At another organization, I had a supervisor who would continually tell everyone what she was going to do, but she never did it. She always talked a great story. I mean, she talked so much trying to control the perception of herself that the staff believed her every time. And she fed from it. I watched her. It was sick. I still remember the day when she knew that I could see through her. And as I mentioned before, it is those moments when you catch the recognition, not guilt in their faces, but the recognition in their eyes, and they know you know. You never forget those moments. At that same organization, I had an upper-level supervisor who tried to control his own narrative by telling me about how he used to be a teacher. He explained to me in confidence that he left teaching because he had a student one day that who became pregnant, and from what he claimed, what he told me, he never forgave himself for not acting sooner. Several weeks later, I was eating with a coworker. We were both mid-level managers, and I wasn't the one who actually brought it up in conversation. This person brought it up. This person told me that our mutual upper-level supervisor left teaching because he had told this coworker of mine that he was just a poor teacher. So this got me wondering, which answer is correct here? Maybe the upper-level supervisor impregnated his own student. I mean, it's awful to even think about. But after all, this is the same supervisor who would casually shrug off any of the emotional concerns of those around him. One day he was even quoted telling me, he told me he gives more thought to what he's going to have for supper than he does for anyone's day-to-day conflicts. Well, folks, that is it for this episode of why do most managers suck as human beings. As always, folks, our stories matter, and I'm eager to hear your stories. And for my last point to ponder today, why can't good people succeed in the workplace? I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Take care, folks, and join us again next week for Points to Ponder. This is Mike, signing off.